Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to another Path of Exile 2 video here today. We're going to be taking a look at my Titan Endgame build, currently level 89. This was my original character from launch, and kind of excited to showcase it again because previously everyone was saying that it was trash, that it was garbage, just because it was a life and armor character. Um, I never had any issues like doing the content with it, and it was just kind of a little vexing to me just how negative everybody in the community is. Like when something in early access is clearly overpowered and like broken, and we can see, from the nerfs that GGG made from, launch to now, those things that everyone was playing that was clearly overpowered and is now nerfed. So in the meta now, everyone's saying Warrior is overpowered, even though Warrior wasn't really buffed or changed or anything. It's just comparatively now to those outliers that were clearly like way overtuned, which was exactly what I was saying all along. Now Warrior is considered much better, so excited to showcase this to you now with that, shift in mindset. First off, if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, really appreciate it, helps me out. So real quick, I'll just show you this. So this is my launch character. So there are a few things like, I'm not even I'm not even sure what that slot there is for. Kind of odd. Maybe that's for those ascendancies that have that third ring slot, I'm assuming. But anyways, so we'll just go through the gear real quick, and I'll show you what I've got. Obviously, some things have changed a little bit in terms of like the runes. I'm not gonna go through and redo those right now. But there's the gear for you, and we're gonna run this tier 15 map. Nothing super crazy, but I did find a pretty juicy map. I had to run a different one to unlock it. So, but it's got like breach, irradiated, boss, delirium. So should be a fairly decent map to kind of showcase on a tier 15 like what this character is capable. Quick look at the skill tree. So the main things with this build is it's Giant's Blood, strength stacking, max block with glancing blows. A real quick look at my stat sheet. So 742 strength. I lost a little bit from how they removed some of the jewel slots. So, but it didn't really change anything for the overall build. Just slightly lower stats in a couple ways. Like I lost a little bit of armor, a little bit of like rage on hit, and a little bit of stun buildup. So it was nothing like super crazy. I'll show you the gems that. So I lost these couple gems here. So I lost a little bit of like life regen, some stun buildup, and some rage that I was getting from, and a little bit of armor. So, not the end of the world. Build's still really strong. Biggest thing, so I think I was probably the first to discover this mechanic, or at least make a video about it at launch. Taking shattering blows here, and then also getting a total of 100% increased armor break. So break 25% increased armor, 40%. And so I have a total of, so 15% plus 40, that's 55 plus the, where was that? The 25. So that is, so 55, 25, we've got 80 there, plus, I think one of these, yep. So 80, 95, and then I've got a jewel that gives me the other 5% I need. So when I heavy stun an enemy, I get 100% armor break. With some of the new support gems and stuff, I'm sure I could do like some cooler stuff than what I currently have set up. So my main like damage ability is going to be Stampede, and Then, like, my boss killing ability is, like, Supercharged Slam. So that's what we've got there. Am kind of curious to look at some of the, like, new supports, just to see, like, what options there are for, like, Stampede. That wouldn't do anything. There's one that I thought... Siggy? What the heck? Hits from supported skills are considered crushing blows. Heavily, which are and fully broken. Permanently intimidate them. That's interesting. Devastate. So I think this one, yeah, probably not anything that I would change at the moment. So we'll go ahead and we'll jump in here, and we will, you know, see what we can do on this map. Bear with me because I've only run one map with this character in the last like 2 to 3 months or so. So we were gonna go ahead and jump in here and just showcase what this looks like. Hopefully it's a, you know, good starting place for you. And like I said, with glancing blows, we've got 75 block chance, but we take half the damage. But what that does is it effectively doubles my armor effectiveness against physical damage. And then we're blocking, you know, with very little investment. Like, this is my only shield node aside from these, which are just all extra damage. And then this, you know, doubles my block chance, and then this gives me 1% increased damage per block. I have been thinking, excuse me, what I was going to do is, like, put this onto my amulet, but I think it's, it was kind of like an expensive... One of these was very expensive, or maybe 2 of them, so I hadn't got to that yet, but that would, you know, was the next thing on my list to do, potentially. And yeah, so we are going to go ahead and we will jump in here and kind of showcase this. So once again, if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, really appreciate it. Getting close to 1,500 subs, and I'm currently working on a Smith of Kitava staff build, which I think is going to be pretty interesting once it's all said and done. Oh my gosh, there's been just some like crazy kind of like lag spikes lately, like on the servers. But yeah, so I basically just kind of stampede around, one-shot everything. Everything that I basically hit, more or less, gets, you know, heavy stunned, and then armor broke. When there's a boss, I'll do, like, more of a setup to hit it with, like, a fully charged, supercharged slam. But yeah, I mean, pretty tanky. Like, I never had really issues with like surviving, but everyone was just, oh my gosh, dude, this like lag, it's so bad. I do wish they would add like a built-in knockback effect to Stampede. Like, it just feels like if it's Stampede and you get like hung up on an enemy, it's just kind of frustrating. Like, doesn't really go with the flavor of the skill. Like, you should just be barrel charging through enemies, like knocking them out of the way, especially the smaller ones. Like, or maybe have it, you know, knockback is like tied to your strength stat or something like that, because currently, like, it just doesn't doesn't feel right when you're stampeding and you hit a little tiny spider and you get like stuck on it. But I'm sure they could do something where like your strength versus the monster's like size, potentially, because like, you know, the big enemies can knock you out of the way, so like why can't I knock little enemies or even big enemies if I'm strong enough? Like I should be able to just kind of like make them BTFO and like get out of my way when I'm using an ability like Stampede. Even I think, you know, a lot of the other mace abilities should just kind of have like inherent knockback to them, like Supercharged Slam should probably have knockback, or maybe like Aftershocks should have like a knockback effect, just kind of inherent to the skills, because with our like limited availability of support gems, like we can't socket knockback onto everything. And then also like I personally on my main damage abilities don't want to socket like utility. I'm trying to just socket like damage. Like if I'm having to socket utility, unless the utility is like increasing my damage, I typically don't want to do it. So you can see the other thing, when we get the broken armor, it gives us like the scavenged plating, and we're up to about 15.6k armor. I think before like the jewel nerf, I had closer to like 17 or 18k, so did lose a little bit there. I lost a little bit of life with some of the changes, like that one notable passive, I think, that used to give you 10% increased stats, now only gives you 7. So I lost a little bit of life from that. Okay, so I'll show you kind of like my setup, what I do with these kinds of guys. So we get this like fully charged up. Oh, what? Okay, that was not cool. So they hit me through it, and it like interrupted my okay. So that's normally what I do. And the reason for that, so this has like rage font, so it just kind of keeps me from losing rage while I'm charging up the supercharged slam. And then it also gives me like some life regen, and when they explode it does a little more damage as well on top of that. So thought it was kind of like a cool combo when I first sort of set it up. Really feel like something in this patch like messed up some sort of optimization, because the game's felt a lot more like spiky and a little like kind of laggy lately. But I think, you know, it might also be possible to do some stuff with like thorns with the scavenged plating. I saw a few new like thorns support gems, so that's another thing. You know, this is my launch build, so I'm just kind of like showcasing it so everybody can kind of, you know, now that warrior is considered OP, like get at least like a baseline idea, just to help you kind of like expand upon it. Okay, so we'll do the mirror before we go back and do the breach. Alright, I guess the last, excuse me, couple guys are in the middle. Last couple rares and the boss. So we are gonna go over there. And I'll kind of show you, like, I think I have a couple points on the boss passive tree, so they should be like a +2 boss. I'll check after because I forget how to get to the Atlas passive tree. And I don't want to, you know, waste my delirium here. So the other thing I do is I kind of use that to prime. Oh. Man, that's kind of annoying. So we'll do that, and boom. And we'll try and get this, well, he kind of walked out of the way. I don't ever remember fighting this guy in here. So I'll use that to prime my supercharged slam so that it is, oh yeah, that's gonna be a good one. Yeah, they definitely increased their health because that used to like one-shot most bosses. But yeah, we'll prime that so we get the ancestrally boosted version. Alright. And then I guess they kind of... Oh, he moved out of the way of my hammer. They kind of changed the way the hammer works. Gosh. It's kind of annoying how he, like, flies around. Alright, I'm about to heavy stun him again, so... Boom. Try and get another good one. Alright, yep, that was a good one. Try and hit him with the hammer. Hammer drop. Dang, they must have like nerfed the hammer drop. It used to do way more damage. Used to like one-shot the bosses. There we go. So, Ruination Ball. They've changed like some of the names. So it's no longer just like hammer, expert hammer, like they actually have names now, which is kind of cool. Alright, so see, when we do that, now we've got the ancestrally boosted version. Alright, so that's kind of a look at the build so far, guys. We'll go and do the... I like this, because there were times where, like, I forgot there was, you know, another mechanic, like, and I missed it, because I didn't go back and do it. So, we're gonna go over here and do the breach. Let me find the... Okay, so here's the Atlas tree. So, yeah, we do have +2 map boss difficulty. So it's not just your, like, tier 1, like, boss. Alright, so here's the breach. Kind of getting some spikes. Breach on this map kind of sucks because it's like harder to keep it expanding. They definitely like decrease the amount of monsters that spawn. Oh, it's already going down. Okay, well, there you guys have it. There is you know, a fairly juicy like tier 15 map on this warrior build. You know, never really felt like any type of danger. Not gonna full clear it because I'm gonna go back to playing in the new league with my Mythic Katava staff build. I am excited because they did an interview with Zizaran and then they announced a bunch of like new changes that seem to be based a lot off of what they were talking about. And the anvil skill, I forget what it's called, temper weapon. for Smith of Kitava, they have like significantly buffed it. So I'm probably gonna test that out as soon as they buff it, because I'm trying to figure out a way like to get sort of like all 3 elemental damage types, like high elemental damage types, going on my character. And I think with that, it's gonna allow me, because like I had the kind of the cold's like figured out, cold's locked down. Lightning I kind of have figured out, and then fire was the only one I just wasn't exactly sure how I was gonna get. And now I think with the new change to temper weapon, like that's gonna really make the build like more powerful offensively. So again, we'll just go through, if you're still watching, still interested, and you want more like of the full breakdown. So we've got Mace Strike, Martial Tempo, Life Thief, Concentrated Effect, Brutality. Because really I'm only using this like for single target, so the Concentrated Effect, just like look how much it increases the damage. It's kind of crazy. Supercharged Slam, you know, I could probably like tweak this a little bit, but right now I've got Heft, Heavy Swing, because the less attack speed doesn't affect it, really. I've got Rage Forged, because if I can, you know, juice it a little more, that's the way it repeats, it's pretty cool. I've got the extra fire damage, just because when I use it, I also use it in conjunction with Infernal Cry, so there's that. We've got Magnified Effect here on Earthquake with Tremors, Maim, and Lightning Infusion, just because, hey, if I can get some shocks like on an enemy, like why not while it's repeating, just gonna help me out. Little extra damage. Maim is nice, and then Tremors is nice because, again, like I just use it sort of to prime, so when I want to get a supercharged slam with Amplified, like I can quickly do this, and you know, if I'm on that every other hit, and when it repeats like that, like it is pretty good damage for like the time investment. You could probably do some stuff with like Jagged Ground if you really wanted to. I even think like Earthquake, you know, potentially could be, you know, you could probably make a build around this. I just didn't want to. So Hammer of the Gods. Oh, I guess this doesn't work anymore in it, so because it doesn't have a cooldown, now it's just based off your like glory, which, you know, I'm assuming you get glory from just hitting enemies. So I could socket something else in there, but right now we had Exploit Weakness so that it consumes like broken armor to do 40% more damage, and a 25% chance to cause an aftershock, because again, that's like huge damage. Infernal Cry, skills do 15% more damage, consumes 10 rage to do 30% more damage, and skills grant 4 rage for 5 power. So time of need excuse me. So the less effect duration makes it trigger more regularly, and it is a pretty significant. I mean, when you're healing like 560 life every, roughly, with the 30%, like every 7 seconds, that's, I mean, you can see how often it's proccing, so we'll just count here. So here it comes. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 8. So yeah, you know, you're getting it about every 7 seconds or so. 2% of maximum life recovered on kill. That's just a huge, like, you do a stampede and kill like 5 or 10 enemies, that's 10 to 20% heal while you're clearing. Just makes you really survivable. This just for the extra mana regen, helpful. Shield Wall, Font of Blood, so just HP regen. Font of Rage, we've got you know, the Rage regen. Haven't looked at what new skills there are for that, but you know, possibly some more utility you could get out of this. Leap Slam here, I've just got Overpower on it. We've got Ancestrally Boosted. The reason for that, you know, I could probably take it off of there if I wanted to, but it, you know, it's just what I've had on there. I don't even really use Leap Slam unless I need to like heal myself for some reason and I just want to be like more tanky, because it gives you that holy descent's pretty good. Gives you consecrated ground, which gives you 5% life regen per second, which is pretty significant. Stampede, got the cold infusion, just a little slow, you know, doesn't hurt, a little extra damage. Stomping ground, momentum, so if you move more than 2 meters, you do 40% more damage. That's huge. And then we've got rage, so each step will grant you the rage on hit, so it's just a great like rage generator. And scavenge plating, we've got 40% more skill effect duration, just so the plates stay on longer. And then we've got vitality for the extra life regen. So those are all the skills that you know, you could probably tweak it a little bit with all the new support gems that they've released. There might be some, you know, min-maxing that you could do there, but you know, at the time when I set it up, that was all that was available. So again, here's the passive tree. Big things here. Again, we're strength stacking, so the armor break plus this on heavy stun just makes it so all of your abilities, if you get a heavy stun, you break 100% armor. We've got just a lot of strength nodes, brute strength, and this is basically where all my damage, or like the majority of my damage, comes from. And then we've got 40% increased AoE of aftershocks, like a couple mace nodes. And we've got this. I think this is very important for armor character, because if you get critically hit, you defend with basically 3 times your armor. So this is huge. Definitely don't pass that up. And then I took like this down here, so we've got like a ton of additional stun threshold from our strength, which I really wish they would add like your stat sheet, like what your stun threshold is, because without knowing what that number is, we don't really know like what a good amount is. So it's like we've got an ailment threshold, but like I don't know where there's a stun threshold anywhere. So it would just be nice to know, to compare, like, oh, my character's got like 10,000 stun threshold, you know, and then compare that to like, let's say an evasion character, just out of curiosity, kind of like to know what a good number is. Then we've got some AoE and armor break nodes here. I picked up Iron Reflexes just because, you know, I don't even remember why I picked it up. I think it gave me an extra, like, it was like a 1-point investment, and it gave me an extra like 1,000 armor or so. So I was just like, yeah, why not? Like, I already have no evasion anyways, so we may as well just get it, you know, a little bit extra armor for 1 point. And it was a pretty decent amount. Like, you're not going to get that much armor from 1 point anywhere else on the tree. And then coming over here and picking up glancing blows, that's the other sort of like important part to this. I think I was starting to pick up these like reduced attack speed, like increased two-handed damage nodes. Like, I think this is what I was gonna get on my next point. And then I was looking at, you know, potentially like this node over here, because that would give me a ton more armor. And, you know, potentially like these nodes over here. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Oh, and then also this is a Resolute Technique build, so we don't have we don't worry about accuracy, we don't worry about critical strike, we just, you know, smash. It's a big bonk. And then, you know, for up here, so I don't think these have changed at all, which I was not sure. I thought maybe Hulking Form might possibly get like some kind of nerf, which I'm glad that it didn't, because it's really, like, in my opinion, one of the biggest things that the Titan class has going for it. You know, it is pretty significant, and part of me wants to just like theory craft a build where, you know, you just get Hulking Form and then take, you know, a ton of just like small passive nodes, because it does make them almost as strong as like a notable in a lot of ways. Like, they're not too, like, you've got, now this is like 10 AoE, 10 AoE damage, and then now you've got these at like 9 AoE damage. You've got like 22 crit damage bonus. Here you've got 20 crit damage bonus. So this is almost better than this now, other than, you know, that like secondary effect, which I don't really think is like a huge deal. The only thing that does kind of suck is like if it has a drawback like these, it increases the drawback as well. So like I get 50% more from the strength, but I also get 50% more like reduced maximum mana from that drawback. So it does have like a little bit of a downside when there's some of those like nodes that have a drawback to them, which I think is kind of a weird thing. Like, I don't really remember any passive tree nodes outside of like keystones that had like drawbacks on the PoE 1 passive tree. So that's just kind of an interesting, you know, change that they've made, where there's a couple nodes where like these, for example, have a drawback but are a little bit stronger, and same thing down here for those nodes. I'm not really sure if like the int ones have, I guess it's got a little bit of a drawback, like slower energy shield startup there. I've never really looked down here at the dexterity side of the tree. So yeah, nothing interesting there really. It's just extra dexterity, which is kind of odd. That, you know, some of them they gave like the strength one, they have these sort of like added benefits to it, but there's not really like an equivalent, at least that I see over here, with like some sort of negative drawback. That's actually, see, so I guess this would be sort of your equivalent, but there's no drawback here. It's just straight like attack speed for dexterity. So I'm kind of glad I saw that, because I might have to pick that up on my other character now. But yeah, so again, hit that subscribe button if you enjoy the content. Gonna be putting out some more build guides, but I wanted to kind of showcase the warrior, since the warrior is now quote-unquote not bad anymore, and it's actually quote-unquote overpowered. So it's just kind of funny to me how quickly the like community shifts from, you know, one thing to another. You know, just because something's not like, again, this is early access, this is not a game that's been out for 10 years like PoE 1. So just because I wanted to play like and test this character, like this idea I had for like Giant's Blood, high strength stacking, HP armor based character, all I caught was like a lot of hatred for the build because I wasn't playing a monk with like the unique chest and the unique gloves that were clearly broken and overpowered, and now they've been like sort of nerfed to the point where we probably won't see, you know, see a whole lot of people at least using them this league, because when something gets nerfed right off the bat, most people are just kind of turned off from that, and they find something else, you know, now that it's in line with, or even possibly weaker than other things, it's, you know, not gonna be in the meta for the most part, because people don't like it when their shiny toys get you know, taken away, and then they're gonna go try and find something else. So again, hope you guys enjoyed the video, hope you enjoyed the build. Looking forward to, you know, testing out some more things like in the game. To me, making my own builds and testing out an idea that I have, trying to make things work, like that's where I get the enjoyment and have fun in this game. And you know, not that I don't copy builds, but I definitely will take like inspiration from them, and that's what I want this to be, is just like an inspiration or like a starting point for someone out there that's looking at, you know, potentially making a similar build, and then that's the fun to me, is like that collaboration with everybody trying to figure things out. Like eventually we kind of unlock how the mechanics work and what's cool, what's strong, like different interactions. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for listening, guys, and remember to give them the D.